Hai, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Izzah binti Mohamad Redza.
Hi everyone, my name is Asyiqin Izzati binti Ghazali.
Hi, my name is Asyiqin Shafiqah.
Hi, I'm Syarfa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad, Shahril, and Mohamad.
Hazard identification, risk assessment and risk control is known as Hirarc. It is a foundation for risk management that has become essential to the practice of business planning, management and operation. Organizations that have conducted risk assessment at the workplace have seen significant changes in their working methods. The purpose of Hirarc is to provide a method for evaluating risk and their related hazard that is systematic and objective. Also, providing both a way to measure the risk and an objective assessment of the detected hazard. We have interviewed Puan Ferdawati binti Basir from Tenaga Nasional Berhad, TNB. Mrs. Ferdawati holds a degree in safety and health as well as a diploma in electrical engineering. She has been employed with TNB since 1999. Currently, she is working in the subsidiary business unit maintenance department at Shah Alam. She holds the title of Assistant Engineer and Engineer Grade E12. We select her for this task because of her background studies and the job scope that she handles. She is in charge of maintaining TNB's property in the Shah Alam region. Moreover, she is also in charge of the 11 kV system and low voltage. The bare minimum requirements before beginning a project in TNB include obtaining a permit, a NIOSH card TNB, registering with TNB, and appointing a project manager. The project can't move further if one of these rules is not complied with. According to Puan Ferdawati, her work is related to live electrical that needs to be maintained. Therefore, her work is exposed to danger and needs to follow safety guidelines and sequences. Other than that, the Health, Safety and Environment Unit, HSE, will handle the situation if an accident occurs at TNB. They will look into it and document what had happened. Thus, everything needs to be stored and safeguarded from head to toe before the works begins. The toolbox should be prepared and the worker should be informed about the work risk and the hierarchy. Puan Ferdawati gave us an explanation of the cable jointing, the T3 cable hierarchy that she managed. Cable jointing is the process of joining cables 1.5 meters underground. It can't be either too deep or too shallow. Depending on the team, this job can typically be finished in one night. The work activities include work in the joint pit, validating and cutting the cable, spike, setting cable, work with cable jointing in the trenches, and work inside the iron manhole, concrete pit, and confined space.
In any industry, workplace could be a source of harm or damage to property or personnel. It can be something tangible or any behavior that the given specific circumstances, which has the potential to be very harmful. It should be eliminated as soon as they found in order to prevent workplace fatalities or accidents. Every workplace has risks that stem from different directions. Maintaining a safe workplace requires finding and eliminating them. In every employment, there will be issues, and those issues might originate from a wide range of places. A worker's safety and health are put at risk by workplace hazards such as heavy traffic, electricity, shoulder ache, finger or hand injuries, and last but not least, breathing harmful gas. Working to identify them and get rid of them is essential to workplace safety. Workplace hazard include situations where there is a chance of property loss, disease or injury to people, or maybe harm to the environment. The dangerous actions in this business which compromise the aforementioned will then be discussed. So first, get hit by vehicle due to busy traffic. The first task is joint pit work. They are in danger because of the numerous passing automobiles, which increase the risk of being hit by one because of heavy traffic. Second is arc flash, or also been known as electric shock. The second activity is cutting the cable and validating. In other words, we call it spike. Compared to the first activities, this one is more hazardous, since an arc flash or electric shock may result in fatalities, equipment damage, or injuries from live cables. Number 3 is shoulder pain or cable bouncing back when flexed. Third activity is cable setup, which is flexing hard cables is required for this activity. The cable will bouncing back when it is flexed, which can also result in injury to the worker. Not than that, it can also can cause to shoulder soreness if the worker is not trained properly. What is finger or hand injury? Working with cable jointing in the trench comes in fourth. This is because they must handle sharp tools, copper screen and armor wire. They will risking in hurting their hands or fingers, because in this work they must use a knife for to cutting the wire lah. Lastly, inhale poisonous gas. Last but not least, work inside an iron manhole, a concrete pit, or any confined area is another activity that may present hazard at the job. This activity poses a serious hazard because when the worker inhale a toxic or insufficient oxygen, it may cause death to the workers. Okay, that's all from me. Next, we will move to the risk assessment. Thank you.
I am going to present the risk assessment part for this assignment. Risk assessment involves taking a close look at the workplace to detect any elements that could be harmful, particularly to people. After a hazard has been identified, we study and assess its likelihood and severity. According to Guidelines for Hazard Identification, Risk Assessment and Risk Control 2008, risk can be conveyed in a variety of ways to explain the result of analysis and help the risk control decisions. For this assignment, we are using qualitative risk assessment and define the risk in terms of its likelihood and severity. Our group has chosen 5 different hazards from each of the work procedures stated in our Hirarc form, and we have calculated the risk using the formula of likelihood multiplied by severity equal to risk. There are 3 different risk levels: low, medium, and high. The first hazard is being struck by a vehicle like car, motorcycle, or even a lorry because of heavy traffic. This is because the work procedure of this hazard, which is working in the joint pit, is typically carried out next to the road. The risk is low though, because Tenaga Nasional Berhad has already taken precautions to address this problem, including setting up cones to alert drivers and controlling traffic. Therefore, this accident is so rare to happen, but still can happen. This is another hazard when doing cable check and cable cutting. The risk level for this hazard is medium. As mentioned by Ms. Ferdawati during our interview session, spike can exist due to 2 possibilities, which are the cable is being cut wrongly or there is an error when switching it from end to end for each substation. Some of the safety rules are they need to turn off the power source, spread the risk source, ensure the cable is dead using testing equipment, and wear PPE or personal protective equipment. Furthermore, the next hazard can happen during setting the cable. Red, yellow, and blue are the 3 phases of single core cable that being used throughout this procedure. Cables must be organized so that they do not tangle and are in phase with one another. The team must go to a training session on handling cables in order to prevent this. Since the maintenance team has enough trainings to handle the cable, the risk level for this hazard is low and rarely happen. Ms. Ferdawati also mentioned another hazard, which is finger or hand injury due to using sharp equipment, copper screen or armor wire during the cable connection works in trench. Its level of risk is medium. This indicates that it is still possible but in a limited way. The existing risk control for this work procedure is to use a knife in accordance with authorized requirements when the task called for sharp tools and to wear a protective hand glove to prevent direct contact. The last hazard is accidentally inhale poisonous gas, which can cause breathing problems that can lead to death due to poisonous gas or insufficient oxygen. These might occur when they are working in an iron manhole, concrete, pit or confined space. However, because they correctly apply to the risk controls already in place for them, the risk level is associated with this hazard is low. Some of the controls include using ventilations while working, getting a qualified individual to complete the job, and getting practice performing tasks in confined spaces.
According to Ms. Ferdawati's sharing, there are numerous sorts of process activities that must be carried out for each work procedure that TNB workers in that field are required to implement. However, the implementation of those immensely challenging work activities comes with a variety of risks and hazards that may happen to the workers. Thus, having risk control measures for each activity is crucial for an organization. The purpose of the measurement is to measure what actions that can be taken to eliminate the hazard completely or to reduce the potential exposure to the hazard, and also to reduce the possible risk of exposure to the hazard. The first risk control is the provision of cone, safety signs, and traffic control. Some of the work activities must be performed on the side of the road and may put workers in danger by facing the prospect of being hit by a vehicle. The provision of cone, safety signs, and traffic control is essential to avoid such incidents and lower the likelihood of accidents from happening. Traffic cones are used to separate lanes of traffic, give guidance around road maintenance and utility projects, and warn drivers of hazards that are difficult to notice. Next, risk control is safety rules procedure in TNB and the usage of personal protective equipment, or commonly called as PPE. When the TNB workers engaging in any work activities involving electric cables, such as verifying and cutting the electric cables, it is essential for the workers to adhere to the safety rules and procedures to avoid any outflash, electric shock, equipment damage, and injury caused by live cables that can result in death. Some of the safety rules is before cutting any electric cable, make sure to turn off the source of supply, isolate the source of supply, then prove that using testing equipment. In addition, when working on projects where there is a risk of suffering serious injuries, wearing a full set of personal protective equipment, or known as PPE, is important. For TNB workers, it is crucial to wear full PPE, which includes the proper helmet, safety footwear, protective clothing and cover all, arms and hands protection, respiratory protective equipment, eyes and face protection, ears protection, and safety belt and harnesses in order to prevent any outflash, electric shock, and other hazards and injuries. Furthermore, according to Ms. Ferdawati, mistakes made while managing the technical work might also lead to some injuries, such as body and shoulder pain, and other injuries caused by wrong techniques on managing the cables. Hence, to avoid and minimize such hazards, cable handling training will be provided to the workers before they are asked to be in charge of doing the technical tasks. Training is an important practice for the workers to gain the full knowledge and skills needed in the job and to prevent the creation of dangers that could endanger themselves or others. Apart from the training provided to avoid hazards such as finger and hand injury while doing work, It is also important for workers to use the authorized tools that are according to standards and to wear special gloves. Ms. Ferdawati mentioned that the special gloves supplied are the kind of leather protection glove and rubber insulating glove designed specially for electrical operations. While leather protection gloves help to avoid burns and puncture wounds, rubber gloves will protect against shock and electrical current. Most of the time, electricians will layer their rubber insulating glove with their leather protection glove. Finally, TNB workers are also required to use ventilation while working. According to the sharing from Ms. Ferdawati, TNB workers are frequently exposed to toxic gas fumes and chemicals that might suffocate them or deprive them of oxygen, which can be deadly. The usage of ventilation while working is crucial and must be abided by TNB workers as a precaution and to reduce the probability of such incidents. TNB workers are also given training to perform such work in confined spaces to refine the abilities required when performing work in real situations.
Special thanks to Dr. Abdul Qadir Rahman as a conclusion to our group assignment that makes Tenaga Nasional Berhad a reference on hazard identification, risk assessment, control and review is not a task that is completed and then forgotten about. Hazard identification should be properly documented even in the simplest of situations. Risk assessment should include a careful assessment of both likelihood and consequence. Control measures should conform to the recommendation of the hierarchy of control. The risk management process is an ongoing. Thank you.